So what would be the proper amount? $250. So we can start to see what that is. How do we get that data? Is that something easy to do?
No.
How would you get data like that on the bucket of fish? It's always kind of interesting because sometimes we just put these numbers up on the board. How would we collect data on the cod supply? Any nature buffs, some hunters, how do they do the deer population? How do they do the, how many largemouth bass are in the, I'm kind of a bass fisherman, so how much largemouth bass is in the Lake Pomona? How many of you are in Dr. Tyner's class right now? What are you learning in statistics on data? I know there's a few of you in there. Sounds like from that last test I heard not learning a lot in there apparently, but I need to. That's why I'm supporting Dr. Tyner's efforts here on how do we get information about this big thing with ocean? What do we do? Take a small sample. Good, Luke. So we take a sample. So we might actually send DNR people, DNR type people, whatever it would be the ocean equivalent, to go out fishing. And we kind of actually take samples of what we think it is. Is it perfect? No. I mean, and we have to kind of randomly go out to different places in the ocean. And so there's lots of issues, but we basically do some sampling. All right, so somehow we'd use some scientific method to get the boats, or to get the information. One of the key things we got going on here is that if we start to send out greater than 5,000 boats, leads to depletion of the stock. And I made an assumption. I said if the marginal cost of fishing, or sending a boat out, if the marginal cost of fishing is equal to 20 fish, then the market, the free market, the market will observe 8,000 boats going out. All right, so let's try a little graph of some sort. Let's see how this goes. Let's go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Just kind of evenly space your hash marks out there. And then let's go, and they don't have to be equal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to measure boats on the horizontal axis, and we're going to measure the catch of fish on the vertical axis. All right, so let's see what we got going on. First of all, let's just draw a nice horizontal line right at 20 to reflect the marginal cost of fishing. And the total catch the marginal catch going out here ends up being our marginal social benefit curve. Right? So we would know, if we were God looking down at the situation, we'd say, you know what? I think you should stop at catching 250. Because if you go further on a regular basis, you're going to make them extinct eventually, right? So if we kind of were able to step outside the situation, the marginal social benefit of fish would follow this track. So let's graph that out. Now, we went in between, so we're going to kind of average between 0 and 1, getting our 90. So then just go up to 90, and that's 1 point. And then go 70 in between 1 and 2. It's right there. And between 2 and 3, we drop down to 50. 3 and 4, we're at 30. Yeah, that's all right. We can have a little bit of lean. And at 10. So if you draw it real carefully, we should be cutting right through at 4, this line, if you drew it nice and carefully. And it cuts through the horizontal axis here at 0, which was at 5,000 boats. We were right at that level where the marginal catch starts to go down and we start to deplete the stock. So this now reflects the marginal social benefit curve. Again, kind of the being God, looking at the situation, that would be the benefits that would be sustainable over the long haul. All right, but the private costs look different than that. If you're just the average fisherman going out, you're charting along on a different route. So the first set of people we had at 90, but the second set was at 80. So here we'd go up to 80, and then we went to 70, and then we went up to 60, and we kind of kept following this path all the way down. 50, and we know where we're going is down here. You guys can keep tracking them if you want. Or you can shortcut. We're going to get 8,000 boats. You can see I was a little off too with my little drifting. That's okay. This reflects the marginal benefit to the fishermen. So the allocatively efficient solution for society is here. Here would be our QAE. And here is our quantity in the market. Fishing is being overproduced. There's too much fishing going on relative to what would be efficient. Let you guys catch up with that. All right, so I heard the mention of a quota. We'd set the quota equal to 4,000, correct?
Right.
All right, let's use what we know and predict what would happen. What would happen? Kind of use our knowledge that we have. We've got a quota. Popping in here right at 4. Would we restrict the quantity of fishing? Yes. Who benefits? Who gets hurt? The fish benefit, okay? They don't know that they're benefiting, but they're living instead of dying somehow. Yes, okay. Mallory, what were you saying?
The fishermen.
The fishermen get hurt. All fishermen?
No, just the ones that get cut.
And which ones are those? Just to kind of make sure we're nailing this here. Which fishermen get hurt?
Extra ones.
Yeah.
What are the extra ones?
Would it be just the everyday fishermen?
Okay, and what makes them every day? What are they missing out on? What didn't they get? I guess I want to make sure we're really clear. What's that? That could be something we'll talk about later.
Permit.
But the permit, they didn't get the permit, right? So only those holding the permit, that's kind of the golden ticket. If you are a permit holder, then you got the benefits of this. In fact, what's your average catch? What's your average catch if you're a permit holder?
245.
All right, so you got the 240. So here we're going from here to here, depending on if we were setting the quota permit at the cost, getting that amount. We're getting our 60 fish catch at a cost of 20. So I have economic profit of 40 fish.
But more firms cannot.
What's that?
More firms cannot enter because of the quota.
More firms cannot enter because of the quota if they're selected. How do these quotas get distributed?
Through a Dartmouth board.
Okay, random lottery. Have you heard of that being done? Hot tickets to a show. We're just going to hold a lottery, and there's only a set amount, so hopefully you'll get lucky and you'll be able to do it. So governments have been known to run lotteries to get these permits. Okay. Anything else?
Lobbying for them.
Okay, lobbying for them, paying off a few politicians. Maybe if you know the right person, you can get the permit. Okay. Other thoughts?
Auction.
Auction. Okay, good. What do you mean by that?
You bid for the permits.
Okay, who gets the auction money?
Government goes to taxes.
Goes to taxes. So the government could sell the permits. That would be another option. Okay. So now we're starting to think a little bit. Maybe there'd be some tax revenue then associated with the permits that we didn't talk about in the past when we talked about quotas. So we could sell the permits. Now, who are the ones, if we just allocate the permits out kind of willy-nilly, whether it's lottery or something, can we be assured that the best fishermen are getting the permits?
No.
Do we know that we've done the most efficient thing in terms of putting the best people in the right spot? No, not with the lottery, right? So if we now add in the possibility of there being some low-cost fishermen and high-cost fishermen, it could be that you can only go out and do it for 40 fish because you're not as good as the 20 fish guys, right? So these are the guys who are really good at fishing. Some of them that kind of suck at fishing can do it for 40. But if you get one of these permits, are you still profitable at it? If you get one, yeah, because you're getting 60 fish because of the permits, you're going to get 60 fish, and even though you're a high-cost fisherman, you're still making some money at it, which might lead to more lobbying or whatever on whatever the system is. So the lottery system kind of sucks that way, in that from, again, God's standpoint, looking at the entire system, is that putting the best fishermen in the right spot at the right time doing the fishing for society? No, because we're leaving it up to kind of random luck as whether we get a high-cost or low-cost fisherman. So what could we do to possibly get the best people fishing? More competition. How? What would we need to do to these permits? Similar to what we talked about before. Give you a hint. Not terribly different. So you get permits. I suck at fishing. Becky's good. Rachel's okay. Reagan's pretty good. Right? We all have different abilities. And it might turn out through Lady Luck that the suck person gets it. That's me. I'll be the suck person.
Catch one fish.
How could we change the system so that the suck person quits going out to fish and does something else with their time? I won the permit. The suck person got it. Reagan got screwed. She's a way better fisherman than me. What could we do if I'm holding the permit and Reagan has no permit and I'm the suck fisherman just because I got lucky? I could what? Sell it. So that's another level of detail. Allow the permits to be transferred between agents. Traditionally, that doesn't have to be the case. Whoever gets it, gets it. But if all of a sudden now I have this permit, and I've got a good fisherman who's a 20 fish fisherman, and I'm the suck fisherman, and I can do it for 40, what might I want to sell this thing for?
40.
So I'm a suck fisherman. It costs me 40 to go out to the water. I'm going to catch 60 by going out and fishing. So what would I be willing to dump this right to fish for? Kelton? 20. Or higher, right? I'm indifferent at 20 of going out to fish. But I have now the choice of sitting on the couch watching TV and earning 20, or going out to the sea. And of course, we could start to run the risk of whether I get 60 or not. There might be some uncertainty. But I can take the money for sure and sell the permit. Now, in Reagan's case, what's the most, she's the good fisherman, what's the most she'd be willing to pay for a piece of paper that allowed her to go out and fish? 40, right? So once again, we've created a market. I need at least 20. The suck fisherman needs at least 20. Reagan's willing to pay 40. A market is born. We can trade these things. There's a supply curve and a demand curve for these permits. And in equilibrium, what we'd expect in equilibrium is that the price of these permits would sell for, because the, and I should, let me draw the quota in here. So the quota, once again, was at our allocatively efficient point. So this is the quota. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a ITQ, an individual transferable quota, an ITQ. And by doing that, that's going to allow the permits to be sold for this amount. The ITQ price will be $40. So that the cost of fishing now, we're going to change the cost of fishing by issuing ITQs. We have changed the cost of fishing to this. The marginal cost of fishing is equal to the marginal cost of the permit plus the marginal cost of the boat. And the results that we get that are important with this as opposed to the lottery system, which again, would the policymakers really think about that? Probably not. They'd probably think, well, you know, we've had researchers look at this and the environmentalists have okayed it and they think that 4,000 boats is okay, let's just issue these permits and call it good. We'll have a lottery system and whoever gets them gets them. But the economist brings to the table the importance of transferring them, to be able to transfer them to get the most efficient outcome. So the key is need to be able to transfer to keep the suck fishermen, these are the high cost ones, to keep the suck fishermen at home or doing something else. More importantly, doing something else, their opportunity cost. And the low-cost fishermen or fisherwoman, fishermen fishing. That's a better allocation of society's scarce resources. So a lot of this comes down to thinking about dynamics and incentives. So it is important to think about long-term incentives with policy changes. The market system and the market process that I'm a big fan of, if you can't tell, does that automatically, right? So what we're entering into the equation is situations where, because of the type of good it is, there's these common aspects and property rights weren't well defined, the market doesn't work so well. So the market doesn't get you the optimal solution. But the policy to correct it isn't always obvious. And if we kind of keep our eye on the ball about the value of maintaining a market system, we might get better results. And so my belief is that if policymakers continue to think about incorporating incentives and making sure that things can kind of move on their own in the right direction, then that's a better policy as opposed to something else that might be more static, like the quota without transferability. Okay, questions or comments? That's a wrap. Have a good weekend.